Hey, what's going on? My name is Chris Phillips, here with my co-host, as always, Adam Pelham for Elevate Your Leadership Podcast. Adam, you ever want a trustworthy leader to be in your life?
Yes, sir. All the time.
Let's find out what it takes today to be a trustworthy leader. Welcome to the Elevate Your Leadership Podcast. What's going on? My name is Chris. Man, Adam, we have been talking a little bit lately about leadership qualities that we want to talk about on this podcast, on this next episode. And one of the things that we came up with today was what it means to be a trustworthy leader. It's unique that we're talking about this right now.
Yeah.
We live in a day and age where I think I know more leaders that are not trustworthy. And I don't know, let me walk that back a little bit, because we see more now than we've ever seen.
Right. With the rise of social media.
Faster than we've ever seen.
More. Right.
Yeah. Right. You want to know my hot take of the day?
Yeah.
People would have hated Michael Jordan.
Probably.
If social media was around.
Yep.
I mean, he broke Steve Kerr's jaw.
Yes, he did.
Like, dadgum. That's wild.
Yeah.
I don't know that we would like him the way that we like him now.
Sure.
If social media would have been around.
Sure.
I don't know if he'd
That's
say he
valid.
was a trustworthy leader.
That is valid.
He was good. Don't
Very
get me
good.
wrong.
Very good.
I'm rocking the
The
taxis.
best, some would say.
He check. I'm rocking the taxis
Yep.
in honor of him.
Right.
But he told a couple people to go take a taxi.
Yes, he did.
But trustworthy, so there's this rise of social media, rise of internet, rise of everything else that's around us. But don't you think that as faith-based leaders, that should be okay? Because we should be living above the fray anyways.
Right.
And we should be trustworthy in all aspects, not just because social media is around.
Yeah.
But we should do the same thing behind closed doors that we do outside of those doors and online.
Yeah.
And I'll just be honest, I think a lot of guys right now that I see, across the country and in different spaces, they seem like a different person online than they are behind closed doors. And I just don't know that the trustworthy component is there. And man, what a vital piece of what it means to be a follower of Christ and a leader than to be trustworthy and have integrity.
Yeah.
We looked up a couple of verses that we wanted to share today in this area. Mine was Proverbs 10:9. Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths, that boy be found out. Whoever walks or whoever takes crooked paths will be found out. Dude, we can walk in integrity or we can choose not to walk in integrity. Walking in integrity, head high.
Yeah.
You put a chip in me, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, Alexa, listen to me. I don't care. Because if I'm trying to walk in integrity and with integrity, then I should be able to walk securely.
Right.
I shouldn't have to look behind my back. I shouldn't have to worry about what happens behind closed doors. I shouldn't have to worry about that. I just walk securely. But it's when I walk on a crooked path, not with integrity, that one, I'm not walking securely because I'm like, oh, what if, hey, he done got.
Right. Right.
And when you done got
Always looking over your back.
Always looking over your back. Always scared of what somebody's going to say. Always doing this, that, or the other and worried about, hey, we were just joking, right? But no. When I walk with integrity, I walk securely, but whoever takes a crooked path, they'll be found out. Yeah. And that's, I think, what's happening now with the rise of social media and everything. People are being found out.
Yeah.
And so today, Adam and I want to talk about 3 ways that you can build habits, 3 habits of a trustworthy leader. They're going to be in your life. And so we're just going to walk through those and hopefully encourage you to enforce these habits in your life. They're not overnight.
Right.
To be trustworthy, you can't build trust overnight.
Right.
It takes time. It takes effort. It takes energy. It takes discipline to actually build trust with somebody.
Yeah.
I've learned that recently, where I have come into a situation where we're revitalizing this church downtown. And what I did before anywhere else doesn't automatically give me trust with the people I'm trying to lead in a new space. It takes time to build trust. They have to be with you. They have to see it in you. They got to know your heart. And that's a hard thing to overcome because time is the only thing that I can't rapidly increase. I just got to be around people and build that trust. And so I need to walk with integrity the entire time. So I have to build habits to do that. Adam, the first habit is consistency in your words and your actions. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, we've heard the age-old saying, right? You practice what you preach.
Come on. Preach, brother.
Don't just talk about it, be about it.
Let's
you know what I mean? And consistency is the key in that, I think. We're getting off to an early start with quoting the GOAT of leadership, Craig Rochelle, right? He says, leaders do consistently what others do occasionally. Mm-hmm. And that's so huge when we talk about being trustworthy.
Yeah.
Like a consistency of trustworthy makes you a better leader across the board and everything else. If your people that you are leading can trust you on a consistent basis, man, that's gonna elevate their leadership and your leadership across the board and everything else. It starts with that consistency and trustworthiness.
Trustworthiness doesn't mean success.
Right.
It just means that I'm the same person behind closed doors and everywhere else. Yep. I have the same heart. It's for other things. I think that's sometimes it's like, oh, if my people just see that I'm successful. No, you can actually be successful and not be trustworthy.
Right.
And so the consistency there is, it's in words and actions. Like you said, practice what you preach.
Yep.
Our actions have to align with our words though. I need to say something and then my actions need to line up.
Yeah.
I can't cast vision to our church to be an invitational church, running after the one, those people that are furthest from God but closest to me, if I don't have stories of my one.
Yeah.
Hey man, you got to be inviting your one in, and I've seen this a lot. You got to be inviting you got to invite your one.
Yep.
Hey, Pastor Chris, who's your one that I could be praying for? See what it was. What happened?
Yeah.
I need to line up my words and my actions. If I'm going to be trustworthy to people, I need to tell them, hey, not only am I saying this, but I'm also doing this and living this in a real life scenario way.
Right.
Like I need to be praying for my ones. Yeah. I need to be casting vision for certain things. We have to demonstrate integrity with that. And that's what we're doing when we line up consistently our words and our actions. And by the way, it takes time.
Yeah.
I've got to be with people and it's going to take time. They're not just going to automatically ask me things right away, but it's going to take time to be with them. It's going to take lunches and dinners and coffees. It's going to be, breakfast. It's going to be those types of things over time that I get to build with them. And so whether in personal conduct, decision-making, or like following through on commitments, what you mentioned is key. Yeah. Consistency.
Yeah.
Being who you are over and over and over again. And if you're going to be a leader that has trustworthiness, you better have consistency in your own life. Yeah. And by the way, you're not just going to have consistency in one area and not consistency in other areas. Yeah. Consistent God time, consistent rhythms, consistent workout rhythms, just so many different things in our life. We've got to be consistent, and then that's going to show up.
That's good.
You got to continue to show up.
Yeah.
Like sometimes the consistency is just showing up.
Yeah.
It's being there and showing up in that way. Yeah. The second habit that you have of a trustworthy leader is to have transparency and open communication. What you think there?
I mean, you've got to have those conversations in order to build trust. And I think even it builds off the consistency with words and actions, and like even in the moments, and we've talked about this often in our previous episodes, even in the moments where maybe you did fall short as a leader in certain areas, opening that conversation with your team, with those around you, with people that you're leading out, and saying, hey, this is where I fell short. I missed the mark in some of this. Like, let's talk about this. I want people that I'm leading out with being able to come to me with openness as well, and being that kind of trustworthiness. And it's when we talk about the other side of open communication, if someone comes to you in confidence with something that they're walking with, like, can they trust you with like the depths of their hearts and what they're going through and all these kind of things? Can they look at you and say, I can trust you? Because that's what it is. They're getting rid of that safety net when they're having that open conversation with you. And can you have the trustworthiness in your life to kind of be that net for them to be able to say whatever they need to say?
I tell people often, like even starting groups and stuff like that, like, hey, when we huddle with our group leaders and they're leading a group of people, your group is only going to be as transparent as you are.
Yeah.
So like if you, in the church world, this wears me out. We typically, we get in group environments like, hey, does anybody have any prayer requests?
Yeah.
My cat is sick. let me help you with your cat. I'll help bury it in the backyard.
Stop it.
And I can help you with your cat being sick. But no, it's like if that's what you're giving me, nobody else in the room is going to give me anything else. If I'm like, hey guys, my cat is sick. I don't own a cat, by the way. If you ever see me with a cat, something's wrong.
Something's up. Yeah.
But like, my dog. It's like if that's it, you're not going to get that from anything else.
Right.
You're not going to get anything from anyone else.
Right.
And so like that transparent and open communication is free. So the same thing is true in the workplace environment. If you're leading in a workplace environment, you have to have real, transparent, radical candor type of conversations.
Yeah.
You got to be able to go up to somebody and say, hey, can we have a real conversation here?
Yeah.
I need to talk about some real things that are happening. I love you enough to have those real conversations, right? By the way, I have failed in these areas. I have struggled in these areas. I think you're missing the bar in this area as well too, and so let's get better together, and you're going to have to be transparent. And then the open communication piece is huge, right? If you're a leader that's in the ivory tower away from everybody for a while, nobody's going to be they're not going to think you're trustworthy.
Yeah.
They're just going to think you're standoffish.
Right.
And if you're a leader that is known for like harsh attitudes, demeaning, responses and all those types of things, and you don't have that open communication with everybody, man, you're never going to get feedback from everybody else, right? If you only do 360-degree evaluations of the people that work for you, and you don't also give them a 360-degree evaluation of your job, you're never going to get open feedback from everything. And so you have to be very transparent. You have to be very open communication. You don't have to talk about your wounds, like open flesh wounds still bleeding, transparent, but you need to talk about maybe some of your scars. Hey, these are the things I walk through. Now, transparency also comes through in like, hey, I don't want to sugarcoat this. Let's have real talk.
Yeah.
Let me tell you some things that you really need to work on. You're doing a great job here. It's that compliment sandwich, baby. You're doing a really good job here. You probably should work on this, but man, you're also doing a great job over here.
Good. Yeah.
I need to be transparent. If I don't tell someone something that they're doing wrong, how much do I not love them?
Right.
Adam, if I was walking around with something in my teeth and I was with you all day long, and you never told me I had something in my teeth, I would get home, and when I saw myself in the mirror, I would be like, Adam hates me. He sent me off.
Me look like this all day long.
I got a booger up in my nose, and my guy just let me stand there with a booger up in my nose. Right? Like, I know. I mean, not for the faint of heart today.
Right.
But it's like, no, you got to be transparent, real, and open in that type of way. That's a trustworthy leader.
Yeah.
I love you enough to tell you the truth. I love you enough to be transparent. I love you enough to have a line of open communication, right? This openness fosters an environment of trust and encourages a culture of openness amongst team members. And by being transparent, leaders are going to know and show that they have nothing to hide, which also builds trust as well.
Yeah, I think, and you alluded to that in our previous point too, of like that idea of nothing to hide, right? And there's a freedom in that, in 100%. Being there's a lot of people. A lot of people think accountability is a shackle, but it's actually a freedom when you are accountable to the real, like to the realest degree with others, with brothers in Christ or sisters in Christ, whoever it is. Like there's actually a freedom in that because you're like, hey, I know that they've got me in check on some of these things, and I can walk freely into being accountable to myself and to God too. And so
we all have the same mission,
right?
Like if we just, hey, we're trying to accomplish the same thing.
Yeah.
As followers of Christ, we are on the same team.
Yeah.
Let's be real with one another.
Yeah. And I was curious, I was going to ask you this as well. When we talk about this idea of being transparent, being open, being an open book, what is maybe the right parameters to put in place as a leader? Because obviously, as somebody who's leading a church family here in Denver, Colorado, we've got a bunch of people that we're leading out through, and you're probably not going to tell everybody every darkest, deepest thing, right? As we're walking through. So what are some of those parameters that you set to have? Is it like a core team that you're walking with there, and then it kind of branches out, or what advice would you give for someone on that?
I think for leaders, you always need to have someone that you can share anything with.
Okay.
So I've got guys that call me at any given moment. They can ask me any question they want to, right? They can look at my phone. They can look at my social media accounts. They can look at my email. They could do, whatever.
Yeah.
And so you have to have that, right? Then you have to be able to tell people that you have that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, hey, like we have an elder team here. And so it's like those elders should be able to ask me any question at any given moment. Like I have open communication every elder meeting. Ask anything you want to ask, you know? And then they also need to know, hey, by the way, this person is assigned just to ask me anything, right?
Yeah.
Even I know some guys even assign elders for that care. This is the person. So then they trust him, And so you just have to have some parameter in place, right? Like, I mean, obviously, my wife has everything.
Yeah.
All passwords, all everything. You have access to my social media. You have all that kind of stuff, right? So it's like that needs to be known to a group of people so that everybody else can do that as well too.
Right.
That way, I think you stave off any temptation to do anything. It's like, hey, if anybody else can get on here, number one, I should probably don't be stupid.
Right.
Walk with integrity,
right?
So I can walk securely, right? And then and I think after that, I think it's a process of like, what have I walked through that I'm past? What have I walked through that I don't know if I'm still processing this.
Yeah.
There are some things that, whether we like it or not, in a church context, people have higher expectations of you.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean you don't share things with them transparently, because you need to have someone you share it with. But you don't need to get up there and talk about stuff you haven't processed yet.
Sure.
Because one, you haven't processed it.
Right.
So it's like, dude, hey, be careful.
Yeah.
Be really careful.
Yeah.
Because you need to process it. But on the flip side, you got to have somebody you're processing that with, right? And so I think that's the key, is just making sure you have someone, and then communicate to everybody, hey, by the way, we have a group of people here that are called elders. They help care, and shepherd the flock, do all that kind of stuff. They also have immediate access to anything in my life.
Yeah.
So that way now the group,
right.
bigger group of people knows, oh, okay, there's accountability in place.
Yeah. That's good.
This is not just me in a room doing whatever I want to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that's good.
Yeah.
Last one, certainly not least, a habit for trustworthy leaders: empathy and genuine care for others. Trustworthy leaders show genuine care for the well-being of their team members. What does that make you think of?
I just think if you say you're a leader, and if you say you want to lead your organization, your ministry, your business, your team, whatever it is that you're leading, if you say that you really care about going further, faster, then you have to realize and recognize and understand that you can't do it alone.
Yeah.
And so that comes with empathy, and that comes with investing in your team members.
Yeah.
Because you can be a leader all you want, but if you're just leading yourself, you're not actually a leader. You're not leading anybody, right? Leaders look to the best in others, and they empathize with others and say, how can I get this person from point A to point B to take that next step in the best way that they can, and empathize with them and care for them so that our whatever it is can go further, faster, longer, and more sustainable.
Yeah, I think one of the problems that some high capacity leaders have in this area is they want to use people to get them to where they feel God is calling them to be, instead of leading through people and with people to go where God wants them to be.
That's so good.
And so it's like, okay, you can either see people as actually genuine souls made in the image of Christ.
Right.
Or you can see people only as people to help you accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. And that gets really tough. That's a hard thing for me. Empathy is not highest on my list of things that I'm good at. And genuine care for others, I think which is really funny, because like empathy and genuine care go hand in hand, but I have to discipline myself to. Empathy is putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Right. Walking alongside of them and putting yourself in their situation. And I can have compassion, but I have to work at empathy. And so when you do have empathy, though, it's hard for you not to genuinely care. Yeah. Because if I put myself in your shoes, then I know what you're hope you're wearing Jordans. And I put myself, and I learn what you're walking through. Then I'm going, oh man, this is tough. Yeah. Right. Like Adam, you deal with marketing and graphics, and you have to have thick skin. Yeah, for sure. It's like, hey, that's really good that you worked on that. Now it's not great. Start over and try something else. Right. That's like hard. Yeah. And so if people only see you as accomplishing what they want through the marketing piece or the social piece, then they cannot put themselves in your shoes, and they can come to you and go, hey, this is not very good. I want something else. I told you I thought I wanted this. Yeah. But if it's like, hey, I know this is hard. I didn't communicate this very well. What I was really looking for was like maybe something in this way. Do you think there's any way that we could redo it in that type of way? That's like empathetic towards the job and genuine care for you as a follower of Christ, someone made in the image of God. and to go, hey, yeah, this is tough, and to do that. But like, man, you want to be trustworthy, be empathetic or care for your team.
Right.
Like, don't just, like be the person that's also going to take out the trash.
Yeah.
Be the person that's always going to pick up. Like, be the person that's not just going to plan the things and try to be the person in the spotlight, but be the one can you plan an event or an activity or a leadership meeting and you sit in the second chair? Can you sit behind the scenes? Can you serve the people that are in there? Like, that's empathy and care for the other people. Dude, your team will go so far with you.
100%.
Like, show up, get there early, be there late, help out, take out the trash, do those types of things. Your team's going to do whatever.
Yeah.
Like God is calling you to do. Yeah, man, you had a verse too from Luke chapter 16.
Yeah. Just to kind of reiterate,
it goes with what I just said.
It does. And it even goes with what you said a little bit earlier on. This isn't an overnight thing. And you're not going to just be amazingly consistent and trustworthy in huge areas overnight, right? But it says this. It says, one who is faithful in a very little is also faithful in much, and one who is dishonest in very little is also dishonest in much. And so some next steps, some practical things that we can start to do to be trustworthy is to be faithful with even the little things that God gives us, even the little practices of consistency and routines and, starting to have those open conversations with people. If you can start to be faithful in some of those little things, even as much as like even the little sins in our life that we got to check. I think so often we let little sins and little things just go unchecked, right? We might not have a huge, massive moral failure or whatever that kind of stuff goes, but we might not bounce our eyes quickly enough.
Right.
We might we might take a compliment a little too far in our head if someone says that was a good message today or a good whatever, right? And so even checking ourselves in some of that of like, you know what, like, I got to get better in this area because that's little things that we can start to be faithful with. And then I think God's going to give us bigger things that we can start to be faithful with.
It goes back to that number 1, 2, consistency.
Yeah.
Am I spending time alone with God in an intimate relationship with him?
It's the key.
Am I praying to God, not for the things I want accomplished, but so that I can glorify God? Am I doing the small things? They're actually huge things.
For sure.
But am I doing those small things consistently that's going to bleed over? And people know that.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of Moses. When Moses would come down from talking with God, he had a glow.
Right.
He had to wear the veil. Do you know how he led the people? Because when he came down, they saw the glow. They knew that he was with God.
That's so good.
When we do the small things, don't you know that our team knows whether or not I'm spending time with God or not?
Yeah.
Like, don't you know they know whether I'm doing this from a posture of intimacy with Jesus? Because the second that I start to do this on my own and get out of that consistency, I'll be known.
Yep.
I mean, it goes, whoever walks with integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths, they'll be found out.
Yeah.
If Moses came back down with not a glowing face,
they'd have known.
He got got.
He got got.
And if you as a leader are trying to lead out in certain ways, and if you don't have the glowing face, you're going to got. And so you're not walking securely. People know when you walk looking behind your back.
For sure.
Right? And when that joke starts out and you're looking left and you're looking right to make sure nobody else is around, you're going to got.
Yeah.
And so, man, just walk with integrity. If you do the consistent things, walking with integrity, if you'll be transparent, you'll have open communication, and you'll be empathetic and have genuine care for other people, man, you'll lead in a way that rises the other ships.
Yeah.
And the rising tide lifts all ships.
Yep.
So if you elevate your leadership in that type of way, then you can be trustworthy. And if you're trustworthy, your team will go further faster. There is no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Come on. All right. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Elevate Your Leadership Podcast. Elevators, we see you out there. We hear you. And I hope you can be a leader that leads out in a trustworthy way. Build those habits. See you next time.